Hey everybody, it's your girl Michael. I wanted to come on and give you a little bit of a tidbit and precursor as to what is coming up in this next episode. This is the episode that I'm sure a lot of you all have been waiting for. We talk about our story. We get real raw and real deep and let you know how this whole thing kind of unfolded in our life. We peel back the onion layers and we get really, really raw. So we weren't able to do it in 30 minutes because in the beginning, you'll hear me say that we wanted to keep it short, but they ain't no keeping nothing short when you're talking about something this deep. So I hope you guys are ready to dive into our story. And with that being said, here we go.
You feel like a vacation. You feel like everything I've been wanting and waiting for. And every day I'm wanting more. Even though we had a minor slip-ups, we are never, ever, ever giving up. Got the modern Gina kind of love. The real shit that comes from above. And my friends ask me how I know that you are the one. I know you're the one. I know you're the one.
Hey, you guys. So we are back. This is our official first episode of the Show Up and Show Out podcast with Michael Branch and
Javon.
Yes, my wonderful husband. So today is the day that we are going to be sharing part one, because I think we're going to have to do at least a part two of our story. Okay. And before we go there, let me just tell you what this story is not going to be.
All right.
This story is not going to be us dredging up a whole bunch of negative and toxic stuff.
Yeah, that's a negative on
baggage. We're not going to go into specific details just because we don't want to go there. We're in a very healed space and positive space, and we want to keep that
very clear-minded.
Yes, we want to keep
energy.
that. So we are going to be very high level and only get into specifics when we feel like we need to.
Yeah.
So if you think this was going to be like a juicy soap opera where you get all the deets,
you ain't getting that, buddy.
Sorry. Wrong
Kick
party.
rock. Not gonna happen.
All right, so let's go ahead. Let me also tell you how we're going to do this thing. So let me just say this and be completely honest that we recorded this bad boy yesterday. And it went way longer than what we had wanted. We want to keep this to be around 25, 30 minutes, maybe a little bit over, but we're talking a whole hour and change. So
we almost went on, 2 hours?
Well, it was like an hour and change, like an hour and 45 minutes or something like that.
Crazy.
Almost 2 hours.
It was crazy.
And we did not want to have that. So we are re-recording this for you all. So, and we have put measures in place for us to keep ourselves on task and focused, and we pray that this works because I ain't trying to record this jank again.
This is completely new to me that she was going to even tell you guys this. So
I'm just being honest.
Just put that up out there.
Just being honest.
Me, I wouldn't have put it about there, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. I want to be honest with the people and let them know that we have so much that we could say.
I got you, babe.
But we got to rein that jank in.
I got you.
All right, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to do a question-ish, put something out there, topic, and then we're going to speak on it, and then we're going to move to the next thing. I want to kind of do like maybe 10 minutes, what do you think, on like max, and if we can, and then just see where we end up, and then if we have a good place where we can stop, then we can go ahead and make that part deux, if you will. Yeah. So let's get going. First off, how did we meet? So we met at work, corporate America.
Yeah.
We literally were in the mortgage business at the time. I was a closer. He was a post closer. We were just friends. I was currently going through a separation divorce at the time. And we kind of got close based off of just being there for one another. Like he would come over, collect files. We had files back then, y'all.
Yeah,
files.
I know, right? Paper trail.
There you go. But he would come around and collect the files from all the closers, and just by him doing that, and then me having one of his good friends and also my good friend sitting beside me, they would talk, and then of course we all would talk, and then by doing that, we got closer. And so then I would just kind of like, go to his desk and when taking files over and talk about, what was going on in my life. He really helped me with some really, really pressing things in my life at the time. And we became really good friends. And at the time, neither one of us saw each other as anything more than friends.
Yeah. We weren't looking at each other like, there was an attraction or anything like that, because we weren't seeking each other in that way.
Not at all.
We were genuinely just trying to be there for each other as friends and everything. So nothing more.
And we also came from the opposite side of the tracks. Like, I was very Eurocentric, all about, suburban life. Really never had dealt with anything other than suburban life, actually. And my wonderful husband here, I looked at him as like, thuggish, ruggish bone.
Yeah, as one of my boys he used to call me like a lightweight thug.
That's exactly, that's accurate.
To this day, a lightweight thug. I'm like, bro.
That's accurate. And so
I was never trying to be a thug, though. Let's put that about there.
True. But that was another reason why I think I didn't really see him as anything like becoming anything other than a really good friend, because I had never dated anyone that was quote unquote a lightweight thug or thuggish ruggish. Never.
Very rough.
A real Negro. Like, I never dated anyone that was as rough around the edges as he was.
Me.
Yeah.
But that was just based on how I grew up. In and out of foster homes, living on the streets. That was my life.
Very hard life.
Not knowing if I was going to live or die, when I was going to have my next meal. So I kind of developed a very hard exterior.
Yeah.
But if you really got to know me, my interior.
Wait. I can't let that slide.
If you really got to know who I was, my bad. My wife in this.
You really got to know me.
Know me. She has this way of always correcting me. That comes from her mom being an English teacher. So, definitely. And not to mention, we'll do that to each other, because she'll say something sometimes, and I'll be like, what was that? Wait. Hold on. Back that up.
I'm not gonna let you slide.
Say that again, right? So you got me on that one. But what was I saying? See, you got me
hard exterior. You had a hard
I had like
exterior,
a hard exterior. But if you really knew me, or got to know me, you knew that on the inside I was very, very vulnerable and sensitive.
And that
very
right
emotional.
there.
Well, not very emotional. No, I wouldn't say that, because
no.
Yeah,
but that vulnerability and knowing who he was, like, I saw him for who he was on the inside, what everybody else did not see. As we were talking and as we got to know each other better, I started to see him for who he really was. You know what I mean? And I think that right there is what drew me in. That is what, me seeing who he was, his heart, like who he truly was, is what started me, the butterflies starting and all that kind of stuff, which was like,
and I kind of started getting very protective of you.
Yeah, you did.
I didn't like the things that were happening to you, so that became an issue to me. And so I think with me wanting to protect you and make sure you was okay, because of how I was, I think it kind of developed into
that attraction.
Yeah, that attraction.
Yeah. It was a beautiful story. We'll have to tell it in full another time, but it was a beautiful story, and we kept it very professional. So nobody at work, except for our like really close friends, like 2-3 people, really knew what was going on. And so when a year later we're talking about
Rod and Rhonda, right?
Yeah, when we're talking about getting married.
Shout out to Rod and Rhonda.
Shout out, y'all.
Love you both.
Shout out, y'all.
Yeah.
when we were talking about getting married, people were like, what? When we finally,
It was shocked.
They were like, what in the world? Y'all were together this whole time? So, of course, our managers knew because that was proper protocol. Right. But everybody else didn't. And they didn't find out until the weekend before that Friday before we were getting married.
Yeah, they were really
or Thursday,
shocked.
Whatever it was.
They
were like,
shocked.
What? So, that was hilarious. But anyway, our meeting and our first years were absolutely amazing. Like truly out of a movie. Not even gonna lie. It was absolutely wonderful, and I'm very thankful for that because it allowed me to really see who he was and really for us to establish a foundation.
Right.
Before, here comes our next topick.
Well, hold on.
Okay,
Before
what?
we even go on to
What?
next topic.
What?
We talking about you and me, but we ain't talking about, you're talking about me a lot, but I'm not.
Okay, well, go ahead. My bad. What are your thoughts?
I'm just saying, like, as far as it just explaining the little ditty on how we met and everything.
Yeah.
For me, I was just, again, it was everything you said, but again, I was rough around the edges. You definitely was out of my league, way out of my league. Oh, babe. And it probably in the other time, and that's probably why I wasn't attracted at the moment, because I didn't have that confidence. Mm-hmm. I had a confidence to know what type of female I could get, but you were the female that was out of my league. You were just way too smart. You were beautiful, and I'm like, she don't have time for no little savage type rough dude like me.
Not savage.
So I was wilding out. So I mean, for me, it was just different. But again, once we started to got to know each other and started talking and working together closely, and me being there for you, I just felt the more and more I felt like I had to protect you, and that's just kind of changed over into me being attracted to you, which I think that pretty much happens to a lot of people.
Yeah. But I think that's the best kind of attraction, though, right? Like when you're attracted to somebody for who they are, not for what they look like.
And it wasn't because of that. It was because of who you were.
Yeah, totally
mentally.
who we were.
Yeah, we really got to know each other.
And I remember seeing you for who you, like the potential. Like I saw so much potential in you.
I think you were the first woman in my life that, before we kind of knew each other, it's like you knew me, and you understood me, because like I said, the way our relationship worked in the beginning was the way that it was almost like out of a fairy tale.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, like a movie.
Yeah, because everything that you literally asked for in a man, that's who I was. The way I treated you, the way I talked to you, the way I held doors open, the way I did all that stuff. But I think also too, us being in each other's lives, that helped you to toughen up. Where where you were a pushover and allowed a lot of people.
A people pleaser.
People pleaser. We both were people pleasers, but you were people
in a different way,
different
though.
ways.
Yeah, totally.
You will be a people pleaser and let people run over top of you and not say nothing and manipulate you and say all type of stuff. As in, for me, I was more, I was a people pleaser, but it had to be to specific people. Right. But it would be the family members. But if you weren't family, the problem would be, if you weren't family, I would allow your heart or something. I felt like I needed to help you. Right. And that's how I was a people pleaser, because I would get, I would learn about people and feel bad for them, and then, latch onto them and feel like I need to continue helping them and things. Right. So I was a people pleaser in that sense, but also.
Honestly, I think that's more so, and not that you felt you were like a savior or anything, but that you wanted to help save people. Like you wanted to be there to lift them up. And
it was more unconsciously.
Yeah, totally.
It wasn't, it wasn't me trying to actually go out here and do it. It was unconscious thinking of how I was.
It was just you having that.
Me. Like I would always, if a family member needed me for something, I was the type of person to boom, I drop everything and go for them. Right. Before anybody, and before even my own issues.
Yeah, totally. So, but I think it was that, seeing that potential in you and just everything that no one else really saw. Like, they totally stopped the exterior.
Yeah, you knew. You were the first woman that actually knew, that saw past the hard exterior.
Yeah.
Like, you really
and
saw
it didn't
past
scare
it.
me.
No, you didn't.
It didn't scare me. With everybody else,
no,
it was...
didn't. I said, no, you didn't. No, it did. See, I caught myself.
With everybody else, it like scared them and they wouldn't push past that.
No.
And for me, it didn't scare me for some reason.
But then I don't even really think it was a scary thing with other people. I just think that it was just...
No,
You think
was,
so?
It was a scary thing.
Really?
Yeah. Babe,
I mean,
you
I guess
come
you know.
off
I
real...
guess you know. Yeah, well, I guess,
mean, come on now.
Yeah. I guess I did have that type of...
Right.
Yeah, I did.
So for me, it was and I remember thinking to myself, like, why doesn't, like, why don't I get scared from, and not scared like, oh my gosh, but like just that you don't want to push past and make somebody upset. You know what I mean? Right. So I don't want people to take that the wrong way. It wasn't like you were coming off like rash or anything like that. It was just like,
just who I was.
Your attitude was so freaking,
straightforward.
just,
I mean, but that's just who I was.
The MC Light? Gotta get a rough neck. I mean, that's you were like, rough neck. And for someone like me, you would think that I would not, especially not really being around that type of personality, that I would kind of like, not go against that. But for some reason, I never cared about that.
The time that I was just... I don't know. I was still trying to find myself in life.
Right. And maybe I helped to lower the wall a little bit.
I didn't have a direction, to be honest. I didn't know what I was doing, where I was going. All I know is that there were certain things that I did not want to be like and didn't want to do. But I still, and the one thing that I really wanted, that I saw with a lot of some friends I had that were couples, and I thought their relationships was beautiful, or I used to always wonder, like, yo, why these dudes get these girls and blah, blah, blah. And I'm always having these people that run over top of me. I always wanted that a nice girl that really liked me for me. Right. Not a nice girl. She liked me, but she still dogged me because I'm being nice. Right. And there it was. It was different with you. You saw past that. You genuinely cared about every emotion, everything I felt, every intricate part of
who you were,
who I was, and what I was thinking. Yeah, that's just what it was.
And your dreams and your desires and what you wanted to do. I wanted to support that,
but we always was. We would definitely, when we was getting to know each other, we would make each other laugh. We spent.
Oh my gosh. And y'all, I love to laugh. Yeah, just ask my family.
I mean, she does. Oh my gosh,
I love to freaking laugh.
If y'all would have heard the previous recording, boy, and we sat back and listened to it, oh my goodness, some of the laughter because I tend to have a soft tone sometimes when I talk. My wife, on the other hand, no. So that's probably why her projection probably sounds a little bit more louder than mine, because that's just who my wife is, which I'm fine with.
I mean, I was a cheerleader in high school.
Like, I mean, I'll be loud. I'm loud when I need to be. Or just let me put it that way, and then it's in my own way. But you'll trust me. You'll know when you hear me. So let me put it that way.
So that's a little bit about the how we met, and of course, like it was a beautiful love story, like he said, and like I said previously, it literally felt like I was in a movie, and we never argued. We totally was able to communicate.
I mean, we really sat there,
verbalized everything.
I never got mad at my wife for anything. Like any problem that arose, we actually sat down and talked.
We did very calmly.
Everything, yeah.
And that was new to me because...
Oh, yeah, because you wasn't used to that.
I was not used to that. I was used to arguing. And I literally remember the time that you were like, we were in some type of situation, Discord or what have you, and I was getting all hyped because that's what I was used to, and you were like, babe,
came from a relationship that we was arguing and stuff,
and you were like, babe, we don't have to yell.
Yeah, we don't.
We can just we're right here. We can just talk to each other.
Right.
And I was like, huh? What? Yeah. Did he just say that? And from that moment on, that's exactly what we did.
Yep.
So we got married. It was absolutely amazing, and literally had the best time at our wedding. It was such a wonderful day. It truly was.
We danced, we laughed, we had fun.
Everybody there was people that we wanted there.
We didn't have no huge event. We had something very small.
Very small.
You know,
with the people that had actually been involved in our little romance.
And let it be known, whomever you are that were there, if you're hearing this, just know every person there, every single person, even if we don't deal with you and we haven't talked to you in years, you all were there because you were very, very, very special, important people in our lives.
Totally.
One particular person who's there, who's not here now, which is my Aunt Wilnette. God rest her soul.
Yeah.
Auntie, I know you looking down on me. I hope that I'm making you proud, because you've been there through the roughest times.
Yes.
But the one thing you were there for was to see me get married, and you have always been like a mother and father to me, all in one. Because no matter what I went through in life, in foster care, and living out on the streets, even at moments when, you couldn't get to me, when I needed to call you and get advice, she gave me that advice, and that's what it was. I'm talking like she here, but that's
she
just
is
how
here.
She's
here.
You know
She's just
I mean.
not here.
You know what I mean?
You know what I mean.
Yeah.
But it was wonderful.
It definitely was.
We had a good run of amazing years of being married, and then our next topic is when
the snit hit the fan.
Well, when things start going left, when things start going left, and that's when one day he actually came home and was like, "Babe, I'm not feeling like myself," and I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, and then what she's about to tell you, the details. Yeah,
he doesn't remember.
I don't remember.
But he was like,
how bad it was.
I'm not feeling like myself. And I was like, oh, maybe you're coming down with something, maybe it's the job, because he had a stressful job. That's kind of poo-pooed it, honestly. I'm not going to lie. And then about 2 weeks later, he came to me again and was like, I'm really not feeling like myself. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Are you sick? Do you not feel well? And he's like, no. He goes, I don't feel well, but it's not like a sickness. It's like in my head. And I'm like, I wasn't getting it. Not even gonna, literally when we went to bed that night and we woke up the next morning, that is when I noticed a huge change in him. It was like night and day. And the man that I fell in love with, the man that I had married, the man that was before me, and we were having a great time in life and getting along and communicating, and he was a romantic. He was always would think about me, always would do things for me. That man was no longer standing in front of me. And mental illness set in. He was diagnosed with clinical depression. And when I tell you that roller coaster ride lasted for a very long time, with regarding trying to get medication right and him not wanting to take the medicine.
It was
a roller coaster ride. It was a lot.
I think it was probably the most challenging and hardest thing that I know I've had to deal with in my life.
Totally.
And I don't know, babe, would you say that for you? I know
Heck
for me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So
because
I just don't want to. I can't speak for you, so that's what I'm saying.
For me, it was like, with other disorders and or diseases, you can see them. You can see it. You can see them being sick.
Or you can go get something for them and cure them right away.
You can get a test. You can see the numbers on the test. I suffer for hyperthyroidism. I have Graves' disease, and I could see on my thyroid panel, yes, I am not within the normal range.
Right.
But with mental disorders, with mental illness, it's different. You can't see it.
No, you can't.
You can't see it. There's no piece of paper that shows you levels. I mean,
When it pops up, it just pops up out the blue. You just never know.
Right.
You know.
And so for me, having to deal with that it's like, are you really sick?
Yeah.
Or are you just faking the funk? You know what I mean? And that's what other people would actually say to me too. Are you sure he's really, clinical depressed, or is he just trying to get away with being nasty? And in my heart of hearts, I knew full well that was not my husband. I knew how he was, and just the regular old everyday things that he used to do, He was no longer doing those things. And so it was a very, very, very hard time in our life. And that, I feel, is when you started changing, not only just in the household, but just mindset altogether. And that is, I believe, when all the
cheating started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You completely changed.
I did. I completely pulled away from our family, our kids, everybody on both sides of the family.
You did.
To the point of disappearing, not remembering places I ended up with, dragging my son with me it got to a point that my son ended up going with me to be with me so you could know where I was.
Yeah. So I could call him and be is he okay?
If I'm okay.
Yeah, totally.
Which turned out to end up having my son dragged into my mess, into my cheating. Having my son lie for me, being at places with me as a cover. And this was like, this is just, there's no time period because this was over a time period of a big time period. I can't even say just. It was a huge gap.
That's just what it was.
And I'm just like, I'm going from one to the other, real speeding it up kind of fast. But it was really bad. It was really, really bad. And I can say for myself as the man who did the cheating, everything I did, I was wrong. There was no excuse.
But that also lets you know, though, that your headspace wasn't where it needed to be.
No, because
you know what I mean? Because you would have never done that.
Right. No.
There's a lot of things looking back. And also when we were going through it, that I was like, I know he's gone because there's no way he would be doing what he's doing right now. And the different
pills that they continued to put me on was also a cause of it. Because, when you're taking these different medications, they're affecting your body, they're affecting your mind, and they're affecting how you move, how you think, your whole thought process. It's trying to, basically the medication is there to try to help you live a regular life. But when you got all of these things in your head, these demons fighting you, and you hearing voices telling you to do certain things or be in certain ways, and you telling people there's something wrong with you and they don't actually believe it, they think,
or they can't understand it.
Or they can't understand it. It's
they
rough.
can't wrap their head around
for
it.
me, the worst thing about the whole situation for me that I'm able to do now that I wasn't able to do, I never was good at explaining how I felt. Right. Yeah. How I could never articulate it for a person to really understand it because I was so frustrated. And that's where a lot of the anger built up, because I couldn't make a person understand me. And even when they tried to understand me, or they say they understood me for whatever reason, I was just kind of defiant to not believing them. Right. So it just made me it
made you pull away even more.
Pull away and made me go down even a darker hole.
It was a very hard time, but that's what started it. And then when the schnit hit the fan, that actually was fall of 2018 when everything came out. And I'm an empath, I'm very intuitive. So I knew and I could feel that something wasn't right way before things actually came out. And I really feel like, sometimes I look back on that and go, why didn't I leave? Like, why didn't I just be like, I'm done? When I would see things or, find things. But I really think that was just part of God's plan. That was just really part of God's plan.
I think it's that, but let's get raw and let's get real. I think, a lot of things, because you love me so much and because of who I was before this all went down. Yes. You were in denial. You didn't want to, what you saw or the things you heard, you didn't want to believe.
I think you're exactly right.
You didn't want to feel like you were going down the same rabbit hole you went
that I
before,
just came from. Hey, exactly.
This is another marriage that's failing like before. Right. So you were in denial. And then on top of that,
let me do my on top of that is I knew you weren't you. Yeah. I knew that the man that was in front of me was not the man that I married. And I knew you had mental illness. And so I was trying to separate the two men, right? Separate the man that I knew from the man that was standing in front of me and be like, okay, if he can just get better, then everything will be okay.
Yeah, I mean, all I've ever known was either black or white. There's never been a middle ground for me. And so that's why I was always prone to just doing the wrong things. There was no in between. There was no thought process to think things out and say, what are you doing? Why are you doing it this way?
Right.
You know, if you did this, this is going to happen. This is going to be the outcome, the consequence. It was nothing. It was just movement. Because that's how I always felt that I had to move because of the things that I've endured as a kid. It was still no excuse, but you become who you are based on how you grow up.
Right, and what you see.
That's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
And what you see. And what it tends to make you do things. And I saw a lot of horrible things as a kid and growing up from a kid to my teenage years. And like I said, being out there in the streets, eating out of trash cans and sleeping out on the streets, sleeping in cold cars.
But also, because you were doing all that moving and whatnot, I think once you did start getting better, you were like too far in to know how to get out.
Yeah.
In a sense as well.
I adapted to what I knew before I met you.
Right.
When things got crazy and tough, the way I adapted to whatever drama I started,
right,
I will latch onto that drama more.
Oh.
And I will pull myself into that drama
more.
Deeper.
Okay.
And pull myself away from the person or people that were good to me or doing right to me, because that was the easy way out of not facing them,
right,
especially once I knew that I was doing wrong.
Okay, got you.
So trying to face those people or you, I couldn't face. So
gotcha.
And, I was always used to running. Before I met you, that's all I did.
It was run
from, if a relationship got bad or something got bad and I didn't like it and it didn't feel good, I left.
Dipped.
It won't no discussion.
Yeah.
It won't no talking about it. Even if I wasn't the person in the wrong.
Yeah.
If it got too tough for me. I will make up some excuse to make it seem like, oh, I'm the problem, not you. I did X, Y, and Z.
Right. It's
Let
not
me
you.
dip.
It's not me. I mean, it's not you.
Yeah.
It's me.
Or otherwise, if not that, then I would do something on purpose to force that person to leave me, and because I didn't know how to leave people.
I noticed a lot of that when things went south. Like when I found out everything and we were going through all that, he did do things I think to test the waters to see if I was going to leave or not.
There's tons of things I did.
Definitely more than once that came up. And I think that, when I all came out, I honestly think we both were relieved because like I said, I had felt that something was going on prior to me actually finding out. And of course you knew. Yeah. But for me, it was a relief, although it was hell that I was now entering in. It was still somewhat of relief because I was like, so, okay, I know I won't stoop it all those times. I know that I was on the right track. I just chose to silence those thoughts.
It was a relief for me, but it was a different type of relief. It was a relief that, hey, boom, the cat's out the bag about me doing the cheating, but then there was still dark things that still hadn't come out.
Right.
They were still in denial, like the whole baby situation.
Right.
Even though you heard it, I still was denying it.
Right.
But I knew that it was going. If this came out, bruh, the rest of it's gonna have to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it was a relief. It was a relief because at that moment I knew that I wasn't gonna be dealing with everybody. I was gonna have to face everybody. And good, the people I don't really want to deal with, I can say, finally, boom, I don't have to deal with this. I ain't got to be stressed. I can breathe, because in actuality, I want to be home with my family. I don't want to be doing this, but at the same time, I probably don't even have a family anymore. So there's that too. So it's like, damn, should I dive in and act a fool because I'm gonna lose my family anyway? So should I go the route of not caring a F anymore? Or should I go the route where, okay, let me do the other thing that I know I'm prone to do. Let me try to go and fix it with everybody. And that's what I tried to do. Fix it with everybody.
Which just
with
made the
you
process
and the
so
others I was
much
out
longer.
there. You know?
It made the process so much
And it
longer
did. It
and
made the
such more of a roller coaster ride.
Because I was too busy focused. I was focused on everyone I hurt.
Right.
You know, and it wasn't, and I shouldn't have been focused on everyone I hurt. I should have been focused on one person only, and that's you. Because the others, I cheated on them with they're irrelevant. You're the one I cheated on.
Yes.
They don't matter.
Right.
They shouldn't have mattered to me in that moment, but
they matter.
They matter, but that's how my heart was.
But they didn't matter.
They didn't matter
as much as me.
Right.
You know.
They didn't. You know. But,
you did have to go in, quote unquote, clean up. Yeah. But you try to clean up, fix, clean some more. Make sure you bought new stuff. That's just an analogy, y'all. But literally, you try to refurbish the whole entire apartment. When you just needed to clean up the one little space and say, deuces, keep it moving. You know what I mean? And come back home and refurbish. Come back home and rebuild.
Because again, because I had got myself into a hole so deep. Yeah. Even when I got busted, I still felt like I can still find a way out of this. Yeah. That's just that's just who I felt that I was. I guess it is right what you said. What? And I ain't think about it till just now. What? You said it was an ego thing. It probably was an ego thing to a point because
thought it was an ego thing.
No, not always, but at that moment, once it came out, it was an ego thing.
No, that's what I mean. That was an ego thing because let me tell you, when that whole thing went down, which I'm not gonna get into the details, but when that whole thing went down, I remember the look in your eye, and that was.
It was like it was relieved, but it was almost like an eye, whatever.
Yes, it was a relief and an I don't give a F.
Yeah.
Type of look.
But because that was me trying to play the tough guy.
I know, but I felt so hurt by that because I was just like, what the freak?
Because
this was not.
I was busted.
This was not the person that I knew. Mm-mm. You know what I mean?
I again, what happened with at that moment, I immediately went back to who I was before you met me.
Heck yeah, you did. Because it was someone I didn't know. All of
that let me know. For the first time in my life, I knew that all of my past and all the things I saw and done that I thought I had let go.
Mm-hmm. You hadn't let go.
I hadn't let go.
Yeah.
And because of how the abuse of what I grew up with, mentally, physically, sexually, and verbally, yeah, it all transitioned into who I became as an adult.
Totally.
Because even when I met you, I was being a player out there in the streets.
Mm-hmm. Something that I did not know.
No. Well, no.
I actually kind of knew it because somebody did tell me.
I had a good. When I invested my all into it,
all that stuff was cut off. Yeah,
that was who I was, and that's who you saw. I ain't care about no other females when I met you. None of them mattered.
Yeah, and you showed me that.
Everyone who knows me knows that.
Yeah,
my home girl Ra knows that.
Yeah,
she know that more than anyone. She definitely knows that because we've probably had more conversations with her in reference to in the beginning with a lot of things.
Totally.
So she didn't know about a lot of this stuff, but the one thing I will say about her, this is why I know she's a true friend, because at the end of the day, when I did decide to tell her, which was after the fact of us moving to Arizona and everything, she was still fine. She also said
was
disappointed in me.
But she said, I knew you were doing stupid stuff.
Yeah.
Like she knew.
She knew.
Right. So, she knew. Crap hit the fan, y'all. And I guess the biggest thing, and this probably will be the last thing we talk about on this episode, because we're at 38 minutes.
That limit.
But is why stay and work through it? Why stay? And for me, that question, I asked myself that a lot because I had just gotten out of, well, not just at this point, but my previous relationship, marriage was this exact thing.
Right. So,
my childhood, watching my dad do this to my mom, I've seen it time and time again. So my thing was, I can just leave. Like, I knew what it was going to be. I knew what I had to do. I knew I could do it because I had just done it.
Right.
And when I went I had a prayer closet, y'all. And when I went into that prayer closet and I talked about it.
That's real. When I said, the movie
totally.
Prayer Closet, that my wife went deep.
Totally.
She went deep with that one.
Yeah, totally.
She definitely
when
had
I
one
went
for sure.
and talked to my Father in heaven about it and said, this is what I'm thinking of doing. I need your confirmation. The confirmation was not for me to leave. And I remember being pissed. I was so upset because that's easy. That was an easy thing to do.
You had a rage that
oh my gosh,
I've never ever seen.
Y'all.
And which was crazy because, again, the only person I know that would quickly snap and have the anger was me.
Yeah.
I didn't, and I'm heck. I've had a conversation with I think with my sister. And I told you this one time that her and my dad had a conversation about who was the meanest.
Yeah.
Between my dad, my sister, and me. And I used to always tell them, no, my dad and my mom, my dad and my sister, were mean. I used to, be like, no, it wasn't me, it's y'all two. But real talk, it's actually me. Mm-hmm. I'm the meanest.
But in that moment, I was so hurt, not just by you, but I was angry at God because I was like, you knew everything I just went through. Yeah. And I point blank asked you, is this the man I should be with? And you said yes. And this is what I get. Like, I was so, so hurt. And when that answer came for me to stay, if I stayed and surrendered and allowed him to guide me, he would fix it. And I would be blessed. We would be blessed more than we ever could imagine. I mean, I will never, ever forget that promise. And I stayed. And I was really angry, though. And when I first decided to stay, literally to God, I was like, this is a trial period. Like, you get 60 days, bruh. You get 60 days.
Yeah.
But that 60 days turned into a lot longer than that. And it wasn't all peaches and cream and rainbows and roses. That's for dang sure.
But so again, let me ask you this then. So, yeah, you saying all that, but what is it that really made you stay? Like, what was it because of how much you believed in me?
Well, was obviously I loved you.
Right.
Like, I was still madly in love with my husband. Right. And I remember what we were when we first got together, when we first met, when we first were dating, when we first were married. We vibe. We were always aligned. I remember I could be thinking about you, and you would call me. So
what you're saying is even all those thoughts and all those things that you're saying. In other words, you still saw that in me.
I knew that was still there because I would see glimpses of it here and there. It would come out here and there. And I still knew, and I think, like I said, and I'm an empath.
Yeah,
I'm an empath, and I can feel energy, and I knew you were still in there. I just also saw all of the stress
craziness.
And the negative, toxic energy that you had within you as well. Yeah. And there were times where you would call me and like out of the blue, and I'd be like, what are you talking about? And be like, I just want my life to be better. I'm just going to do what God tells me to do and finally just see if that works, if my life is better. And I was like, what is he talking about?
It's funny you say that because I remember
that you were going through all of that.
And just to let y'all know that was something I said to her a lot.
A lot.
When I really started coming around and realizing what I had got myself into once we figured out the right pills to put me on and I started to become myself. The main thing I will always say is I just want peace. And it would be literally in arguments with her.
Yeah.
And she would think that I'm talking about her. But I was talking about her, but I'm talking about when I want peace, meaning I want all of that other stuff to stop.
Right. Yeah.
Because it was so bad for me, stepping outside
toxic.
of my marriage. In the beginning, it seemed like it was peaches and creams to me. And then once, those layers started turning back, it got deeper and it got stressful. And it wasn't just, one relationship. It was multiple relationships. So, and I'm not going to front and sit here and try to make it seem like, it was just one, it wasn't like 6 and 7 relationships. It was 2 other people. Let's just get that straight. Okay. Just 2 other people. So, and out of those 2 other people, I ended up having a child with one of those 2. But again, the stress level of trying to juggle and please everybody, and not only that, out of that, you have, there are multiple kids that are involved.
Well, there's families, whole families and friends
and friends and stuff.
With,
so here I am living these different lives,
right?
And there are some people who know that are close and supposedly be friends of the family and stuff like that. But yet, though, even some family members that knew, they just wasn't guiding me, and people weren't guiding me the right way. But the toxicity with those stepping out just became so severe that was my argument all the time.
I remember you would say sometimes, I just want everybody to leave me alone. And I'm like, who's everybody? Yep. Who's everybody? Yep. You're talking to me. Who's everybody?
Yeah. But when I would put that out there, you would always think it was never toward, like, any of my arguments or my anger was, I took it out on my wife, but none of it was. But I
knew it wasn't.
It was
me,
nothing.
though.
It was nothing that she did.
Yeah, it couldn't have been me, because I knew I wasn't doing anything. That's why when you would say that, I'd be like, who's everybody?
And for a point, probably when that last one came along, that's when it became really hellacious for me. And very toxic. Yeah, it became very hellacious.
When you have 2 people that have mental illness, it does not work. No. But I got a question for you, because you haven't answered yet. So stay and work through it. What was your reasoning?
I wanted my family.
I mean, you had options.
I wanted my family. When I started coming out of everything, I realized the things that I was doing, and I realized the pain that I was enduring on everyone, and the pain I was putting myself through. I was miserable.
But why did you want to stay in our marriage and work through it? Because I'm sure you knew that to work through all of what had happened was going to be, it wasn't going to be a walk in the park.
I didn't think about it.
You didn't?
I didn't.
Wow.
That's I don't know.
So what was your, how did you make that decision your own self? Like, I remember you saying to me, because I will do anything
when I really said,
to keep this marriage.
When I really said all those years that I wanted it to end, and then I wanted all of the pain and stuff that I was dealing with to end, and that I always used to scream and yell out to God and cry when people would know, or even when I would cry and you would see me crying, my anger, my pain was talking to God, but I would ask him to just take me away from it. But I knew I wanted to be with you. I knew you were the one that was meant for me. I know what I felt from day one, and I knew that I still was madly in love with you. And I knew it because no matter what, all the dirt that I would do when I wasn't around you, to the others, there was nothing bad. Whenever they would say something bad about you, I would get upset, like to a whole nother level. Like, I didn't want anybody to say anything about you, or if they would try to bring you up, I would be like, why are we talking about her? Like, you know, like, no, like we're not going down this road.
Right.
Like,
Still protecting.
She has nothing to do with anything that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's not her fault, you know. And
protecting in a different way.
Yeah, I was protecting in a different way.
Yeah.
You know, everything I did was wrong, and there is no excuse for anything that I did, but I was also trying in my own way.
Right.
And in anybody else's ways, no, it's wrong is wrong. There is no you trying to protect nobody.
Right.
In my mind, the way I was thinking, I was doing certain things to protect you, but I really wasn't protecting you because I was hurting you.
Right.
Based on everything I was doing.
But to give you the benefit of the doubt in that scenario.
There is no.
No, because I'm going to.
No
this is what I'm going to say.
I'm being hard on myself because you know that.
You were doing wrong, but in your doing wrong, you still tried to protect me from other people doing me wrong. So it's almost like you could do wrong, but don't let somebody else say anything else. Almost like, you know, when people are talking about your parents, right? You can dog your parents. You can say dirtball things about your parents, your family, whatever. But you ain't allowed to say jack.
Yeah, that's
so I can see that. I can see you doing that. And you know, that's just, I think that's something that also just probably showed you too, like you said, you know, your feelings.
It showed my feelings, but I have never met anyone like you. I knew when I met you, babe, and the things that you opened my eyes to, I never had. I wanted family. I never knew what that was like to have family. When I met you and your family. You guys were very family oriented. Y'all had fun. Y'all did things. You know, we talking about family reunions. Like, I ain't know nothing about none of that. These were things that I used to always see on TV or see other friends have and, you know, wish that I had and never had. So when I met you guys, I embraced that, and I didn't want to lose any of that.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't getting that from what I was doing. The dirt I was out there doing. Yeah. That wasn't the family that I wanted. The family I wanted was you guys. You know, your mom was the mom for me. Because at that time, I wasn't talking to my mom.
You weren't connected with your mom?
I wasn't connected with my mom on that level.
Yeah.
You know, she embraced me like no other woman has ever embraced me, no matter what. Even to this day, even after all that I have done, Mom was beautiful how she treated me. It was so godly like. Totally. You know, she didn't say that in malice. She didn't yell. She didn't do anything.
She was matter of fact in some of the things that she said, but she did it out of love.
So appreciative. Yes. That I manned up and came to her and told her myself face to face what I did to you and how I did. Same thing with our daughter, our oldest daughter. Yeah. I manned up and did that. Yeah. You know, so that when you can face something, and this wasn't even your choice. This was my choice to do these things. Totally. Because I didn't, you know, we weren't going to tell anybody. No. But I manned up and said, look, I have to face people for what I've done. And I think that was really me walking into that was probably the turning point of saying, yo, I got to do right. And I was also always yelling too, you know, God, if you take this pain away, I'll do the way that you want me to do things, because I wasn't doing things the way that, you know, I was supposed to in God's eyes. No. I used to always pray. Not at all. I used to always pray and cry and scream out for that, because that's how miserable my life was. Right. And so I've been asking them for a long time, even with me out there doing the dirt and cheating with those other people. They've heard me say these things. Yeah. Because it was just too much. Yeah. It was a lot. When you trying to live these multiple lives, and doing all this lying and making up all these stories, and you know, for me, it wasn't even about keeping up with one lie with the other.
Everything was a dabbling lie.
Yeah, that's how I live my life. So to me, in my eyes, nothing was a lie. Everything was the truth. Right. And
you begin to
everything
believe
was
the
my
lies
story
you
on
tell
how I
yourself.
wanted.
Yeah.
That's how I lived
Yeah.
life. I was manipulative. I manipulated you. I manipulated them.
Yeah,
You
totally.
know, I played mind games.
So why stay?
So I stayed.
So why stay?
Because I knew what I had in a beautiful woman in you. I knew I knew how much you loved me. I knew how much you cared, how you been there. I know at my darkest moments how you fought for me. You know, the most intricate things you would do. Just, do you realize I would still be messed up if it wasn't for you?
Oh.
Because
Okay.
when this whole situation happened with my mental state and the chemical imbalance, which got really bad, as I've said before, we're going to reiterate that. You, based on all the different medications that the doctors was putting me on, you did the research.
Yes, I did.
You went out here and found the research because I was so bad to find something for me to work that made me feel better and made me kind of start coming out of things. And once you found that, because now I'm on something different. You found
Right.
something before that
Right.
was the startup.
Yes.
So what I'm on now is even way better.
Right. But that was
But
the start.
that was the start of
Yeah.
opening my eyes and for me seeing all of the things that I was doing.
Yeah.
But that also showed the level of love, unconditional love, that my wife has for me. Nothing mattered except for getting me better.
Yes. Yeah. I actually had to take the wife hat off
right.
sometimes, and that was really hard for me to do, because when you've been betrayed and you're dealing with infidelity and you're dealing with all that comes with that, you want to play that victim mode of, why me, and why are you doing this to me, and make me feel better, change for me, do this for me, show me this, show me that. And there were times, I realized that you were broken, and we all are broken in some way, shape, or form or fashion. But I realized
But
that
you knew that
I needed
that the
to-
day that I came over to your desk and got
Oh, totally.
You knew I was broken.
I knew you were broken in
and that's
ways
what we
then.
meant by earlier in the
I
conversation.
saw
that
your potential.
You saw well, I don't even say potential. You saw who I was. Not even that.
Yeah.
It's not even about the potential.
Right.
Because you were going to see the potential regardless. Because saying it like that makes it comes off like, hey, he's all right, this is a project. So let's not take that you see the potential out. I'm just telling you how other people would think outside of it. Because the way I saw it was, again, you saw through the exterior, the hard exterior. You saw the gentle person that I was. You saw that I wanted good. You saw the good in me. Wasn't even about no.
And that's what I mean
and that's what
by
you,
the potential.
You know what? Actually, yeah, there you go, folks. I'm sorry. And that's
See?
why. But I broke it down. I broke it down. In other words, I broke it down. That's what my wife did, but I broke it. But this is what we do. This is how our relationship
But that's
is.
what I saw.
Right.
And so for me, I had to take. I was like, okay, for me to be able to deal with him the way I know that my Heavenly Father would want me to deal with him, I need to take the wife hat off. Take all those feelings that are aligned to being his wife and just be his friend right now. Just be his friend right now and get him better. And so sometimes I had to do that. Actually, a lot of the times I had to, going through our rebuilding process, which we will get into on the next episode, I had to take the wife hat off. Because having the wife hat on brought way too much pain and hurt and feelings that I couldn't even really see through clearly to help you, because I was so hurt and in my own feelings. And so, I definitely feel like that is huge.
Yeah.
And being able to get through something like that. To get to our next point. Right. Which we will, like I said, we've already got, and I my bad, y'all. We said 30 minutes and we're at 57, so we still have gone over. But this was really good, and I hope that, you guys were able to understand our story a little bit better. Right. And
we still
get
have
a little bit deeper. We have a lot more to cover, but we will get into that in part two of our story. And we'll lead the next segment we will start with the hardest part about rebuilding trust, and that's deep. So,
right. And we will also talk about the things that, because a lot of people don't understand sometimes, and I'm gonna give a male perspective of what it was like to be on the other side, and going through it as a man,
rebuilding that trust,
but rebuilding the trust and being there to stay and endure seeing my wife basically relive the pain over and over again, basically in
my mind,
in her mind, but also talk because when you have to talk things out, you have to talk that pain out.
Yes,
you can't just,
and it's sometimes
you can't
not
just say, okay, we're gonna work it out and it's done. You got to really put the work in. Right. So in other words, I'm gonna give my perspective on what I had to do and my work I had to go through in order to get where I am with my wife. Mm-hmm. But I want men to know that, you know, at the end of the day, you are human, but you have been blessed in so many ways to do so many great things, especially being men of this world. There's so many things that we dominate in, but sometimes we need to pull ourselves back and hold ourselves accountable for some of the things that we do. But we also, most importantly, need to man up and take accountability for our actions.
Yes.
We definitely need to do that. I don't care what color you are. It doesn't make a difference. Wrong is wrong and right is right. And if you're a man out there doing things, you know, and you want to make your relationship better, you know, there's no better time than now to start doing the work to heal.
Yeah, to heal and to do that.
But you have to love yourself first. You can't even love the person that you with or want to heal with if you don't love yourself first. But you have to love yourself first and own up to your things, the things that are going on. And once you can admit them things to yourself and own up to them, and then admit them to the person that you want to try to work things out, you'll become better. Whether it works out or whether it doesn't work out, you'll still become better. But that's a start. And it's not you trying, it's actually action.
Doing the work.
Right.
You have to work.
So you're not talking about it, you're being about it.
Yep.
And that's the most important thing. But there'll be more and other things that I will discuss in, you know, my trials and tribulations of how difficult it was for me to put in the work to get to where I'm at right now, and us to be in a great place, because she has her side and I have my side, and then there's us coming together. So like I said, there's
that the God side, I guess, you know, like that overall
Definitely.
You know, look of how everything was and went down. And so we will be coming back to you guys on the next episode to discuss more about our story. We are so grateful, humble, and thankful that you are joining us on this journey of healing and restoration and renewal, and just what God can do in your life if you allow yourself to surrender and do the work. That's the main thing. Do the freaking work.
All day, every day. You got to start somewhere.
Got to start somewhere. Make
sure you guys have very positive energy and wake up. When you wake up, and I want to say this to the women, when you wake up, start telling yourself, look in the mirror every morning, start telling yourself how beautiful you are. Because no matter what you are going through, women, you are very, very beautiful inside as well as outside.
And strong. And
very strong.
Women are strong.
And sometimes you don't give yourself enough accountability and credibility.
Credit, yeah.
And the same thing goes for men. You know, you have to believe in yourselves more. You have to own up to the things you do. But if you have mental issues, don't shy away from that. Yeah. Now's the time to get the help. We living in a world where there are so many things that are happening out here, but we need to find a way to come together and enjoy the time that we have with each and every one that's around us, and love each and every one that we can, because tomorrow's not promised. Very true. And you never know when you have the opportunity to get it right now, because you might not have an opportunity later on.
That's so true.
Work it out now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just work it out right now.
That's right.
Don't sit there and be a fool and keep, you know, pitter-paddling around things. Walk the walk.
Don't postpone tomorrow's, for things that you can do today.
Right.
Because,
Get it done.
It's going to be hard both times.
That's right. Be your biggest critic, but love yourself and believe in yourself and know that you can do it. And most importantly, walk with God.
Most definitely. And on that note,
until next time.
Until next time.
On the next episode of Show Up and Show Out.
Have a great night.
Deuces.
Great week, y'all.
Peace out.
Like diamonds, they see us shining. Hashtag couple goals. Catch us on the gram, we hopping islands. Don't care what the rest say. They don't know how you loving me. They don't know how I love so deep. Thinking with this energy. Thinking with this chemistry.
Thanks for hanging out with us and allowing us to share our thoughts with you. We hope you enjoyed this episode and found value in the topic so you can take some nuggets of wisdom into your own life and show up a little more and allow God the opportunity to show out for you.
If you like what you heard, please click that subscribe button so you'll be notified of future episodes, and we invite you to leave a review if our podcast resonated with you. Let us know that you too are ready to show up in your life. Thanks, and until next time,
we out.